Even folks, Jer here at The View, joined tonight by Luke. Luke is from the Orta Knows Best podcast. Luke, tell everyone a little bit about yourself. They haven't seen you on this channel. You've been on Joe's channel a lot, but just for this one.
Yeah, no problem. Everyone gets the name wrong as well. Like I've been calling you Gur, and it's Jer, but it's actually the Orta Know Better podcast.
Better. Do you know what? Look, it's right there. I wrote down Orta Knows Better, and I still got it wrong.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We have people come on the pod who actually are part of the pod, and they still call it Orta Better Knows and all sorts of different stuff. So don't worry, don't panic too much. Yeah, we the podcast we've been together now just over 2 years. We started obviously like most probably did during lockdown. Just enjoyed it really. Just a group of lads, and there's been lasses as well that have been with us throughout the time. Just something we've enjoyed doing and just carried on really. You know.
Yeah, just saw somebody there ask about Joe. Joe is footballing tonight. Actually, he was asked to do a football thing, so he is doing his best Sean Dyche impression on the picture I saw of him earlier on. So he's out tonight, and Rocco's not feeling the best, so it's just ourselves and Luke. So the podcast going since lockdown. So you're in the bracket with the loads of new Leeds podcasts that will all vanish after.
That's
lockdown.
it. Yeah,
Still here. We're
still here. We're still loving it. Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, there's a full team of us. You know, at one point I think there was 8 of us doing it, but thankfully there was, because as the season started back up and that after COVID and whatnot, you know, less and less people going more to games. You just proved more and more difficult. But yeah, thankfully there's still a solid 6 left of us that get in and get at least one podcast, often 2 a week. So.
Yeah, 6 is a good number. You need it though, because if someone's dropped off, because as you said, when COVID stopped, everyone goes back doing what they normally do. So you know, people are busy and you miss people. So it's good to have a nice. I'd love a second person. Some days I just forget about doing a video. So what we're gonna do, folks, tonight we're gonna talk about the transfer window to date, and we're gonna just do it and just have a conversation about it. We're just gonna start off with before we get to that. There's the Bielsa news that came out today that thankfully he's not taking over Everton, or is it thankful? I don't know, because it would have taken 7 weeks to get them right. So, where's your head at with that, Luke? You happy with that decision? Did you ever think it was going to happen?
I didn't. I sort of had it in my heart that it wouldn't. I mean, in my head, I think I know it's going to happen one day, and I'm going to have to let it happen. In my heart, and I think I speak probably on behalf of the majority, if not all, the Leeds fans. We don't want to see him managing against us, do we? No matter what. I offered my bet £500, my friend a £500 bet. Obviously, don't advocate betting, you know, all that sort of stuff. But he's well off, so he could afford it. But I offered him a £500 bet at 2-1 that Bielsa wouldn't sign for Everton. Anyway, yesterday when he seen all the pictures that he was in the Heathrow, I think it was, that apparently. He was like, I should have had that bet with you now. I should have had it. And then anyway, the news come out today that he's no longer favourite, and it's almost imminent that it's not going to be him. But yeah, I can see why he didn't take that job, if I'm honest. I don't think the staffing situation, the players suit his style at all. I think they're much more a Dyche side, which actually makes me think that's a little bit more worrying, because I think they have got more chance of keeping. I think Dyche has got more chance of keeping Everton up, which hopefully doesn't intrude on us too much.
Well, they signed half of Burnley's back forward, didn't they, when the season finished? So he's pretty much got loads of lads that he already knows what to do with there. So Tarkowski and the other fella that came in as well. But fingers crossed he does exactly with these what he did with Burnley for the first half of the season last year, and drags them down and keeps them down. It's the thing with Everton was, I always thought it was interesting was, and I saw somebody, actually might be new on Twitter, but other people said it as well, is they don't seem to know what they are as a club. They don't seem to have a plan. They don't seem to know where they're going, because how do you have Sean Dyche and Marcelo Bielsa in the same conversation as your two choices, and they're this far away from each other in terms of styles and everything else? Like, you've got Bielsa, who likes to have a culture and an ethos and a vision and everyone buy into it, and you got Sean Dyche, who likes to get the back four to put the foot through the ball, and you're like, well,
polar opposites. Absolute polar opposites, Jerry. It's exactly what you say. It's how can they have any realistic plans for the future? I think their immediate plans, I assume Dyche is probably coming on a short-term contract, probably till the end of the season, and their initial plan is to stay in the Premier League through nook and crook, you know. So I can understand why they brought Dyche in, and I think I think he's probably more dangerous at this stage of the season than Bielsa would be coming into Everton. However, yeah, you're absolutely right. Polar opposites. One plays sexy football, one plays the absolute opposite, anti-football. So, yeah, sit tight, I think.
And Tarkovsky be happy anyway. He'll have his best mate back. He'll be delighted with himself. Tarky back.
Get lifts into work every day and that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple people in the chat talking about, let's not talk about Bielsa. We kind of have to. He's the last manager we have. We all know the legacy he's left, and he's popped up in Heathrow. So whether he popped up in Heathrow or not is another story. Whether it was real or not, he looked quite youthful. He looked like he had loads of colour in his hair. But, you know, a little bit of hair dye and take your glasses off, you can look a certain way. But
I've seen the comparisons.
Yeah, it's the two pictures that the lads took from the Scandinavian Leeds club. He's wearing the same pants in both those pictures. It's the same trouser. Yeah. And the way I always looked was he always had an Adidas deal. He's had a deal. He always wears Adidas everything, and he was the trainers. The bloke in Heathrow were Adidas trainers. Like, I think it's Bielsa. But when that picture was taken is a different question. Whether the mail decided to just make up something and go with it, or it's legit. But anyway, I don't know if you've seen the Athletic released an article today. So, was it the Athletic? I think it was the Athletic saying that he'd offered to go in and coach their 21s, but he wanted. Does he not want the relegation on his exactly CV or what? Yeah, that's what they said. They said he didn't want a relegation on his CV, and he said it would take 7 weeks to get them up to a level where they could do what he wanted them to do. So full preseason, essentially 7 weeks. So in the meantime, he offered to go in and manage the 21 team and build the culture and bring his coaches over to get them used to it. And then regardless of whether they're in the Championship or Premier League next year, he would take over as manager and then put his styles in. But like he said, I think one of the comments he made about the squad was it was too slow. They're too slow, you know. You can have Dan James if you want. Like these.
Yeah, never change, Marcelo. Never change.
No, don't. It was great. I'm glad he's not here because I don't want to see him. It's going to happen though. I think it's inevitable at this point. He's spoken to 2 Premier League clubs now at this stage. I think there's a desire there for him to manage the Premier League again. I think it's going to happen at some point. The right club is going to ask him at the right time, and unfortunately,
absolutely.
I hope we're in a better place. Right, we'll move on. We'll talk about the transfer window. So, Luke, excluding the McKennie stuff, because McKennie stuff right now has a possibility of tainting what did look like a positive transfer window up until his name got mentioned. Where are you at with the transfer window, ignoring McKennie?
I said before the just about the start of the transfer window, actually on the podcast, that look, if we sign somebody who can play left back regularly and a decent striker, I would be happy. I said if I was being greedy, I would want an additional centre midfielder, and this was before Click had gone actually, and even any rumours. But somebody who can do what Click does but better, who's a little bit more, I don't know, but a little bit more flexible central midfielder that can play defensively, can get forward, that can open up defences and things. Somebody who can do a little bit of the Click, but slightly better at a better level for us. So look, I think that they've fulfilled my expectation already in Woba and Rutter. Hopefully we get to see him tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think if we're being greedy and being as fickle and entitled as we are, we want better. We want a better squad, and especially with Click leaving, I think now I'd expect at least one midfielder to come in for it to be a successful transfer window for me.
Yeah, there's people asking about Ounahi as well, and that seems to be a crazy thing that's after happening today. Looks like he's on his way to Marseille for €9 million, which is about £7.5 million, considering
we offered 22, was it?
We offered 22 up front, yeah, 22 million, and they said no. And Napoli offered 15, and they said no. So I think Angers have been caught with their pants down here of trying to play a World Cup game. You know, he's worth way more money now, and everyone just left and just was like, no, don't want him. And then Marseille have nipped in and gone, here's 9 million. We take it, and they're like, yeah, okay. It's you'd wonder would Leeds nip it back in, or would somebody else nip back in at this stage and try and hijack it, but it'll only jack the price back up again anyway if that happens. But yeah, I agree. For me, the issue has always been the defense. I'd like another defender, whether that be an out and out specialist left back or another centre back where Vober can play left back, and then because I think Vober's made a huge difference centre half for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we signed him initially probably as a left back, but I mean, you've only got to look at his recent performances. The fact we've not conceded any goals while he's been on the pitch, and he's almost brought that spark that we've almost needed. He flies around, he puts his foot about, and he just gets Leeds done. He gets exactly what it's about. He knows how to raise the crowd, which in turn raises the team. So yeah, absolute cracking signing so far. I haven't got a word to say badly about him.
It's a big stat to be able to say that they've not conceded a goal while he's been on the pitch, considering how many goals we've conceded this year and our average of 2 goals per game. I mean, the Cardiff away match was the primary example. He's on the pitch, it's 0. He goes off, we concede 2 straight away. You're saying,
yeah.
He's definitely.
Well, even when he made his debut away, he came on the pitch in defensive midfield, arguably changed the game. Dictated the pace, and changed the game in his debut. He'd only just landed in the country a couple of days before.
I think he's good. I think he's excellent. 1v1s, he's really, really good. He reminds me of Pontus Janssen with a bit more pace. A little bit more pace to be able to recover. He reads the game really well. I saw him cutting out a couple of balls that Ayling had missed, and he was able to come across and slide tackle and cut the balls out. He reads the game really, really well. Now it's only it's a small sample size of 1 full game plus 2 half games, but I mean there's enough there to go. Yeah, he didn't cost a lot of money. Book's decent enough. But I still want that left back position just locked down. But I don't. Yeah. This is me being entitled. I don't think I'm going to get it. I'm not.
No.
But in terms of midfielder stuff, then the Ounahi, whatever, but Ounahi, McKennie stuff has changed tonight. And I saw Luke, you put a screen grab up of an article about the McKennie deal, about the change in it from it's no longer a permanent move. It's now
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen that. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if the assurances there are coming from McKennie's side. I don't know. I don't know if he wants a loan deal to the end of the season to see where we are, see what happens with us. I don't think he wants to be signed as a Leeds player and potentially be playing in the Championship. That's one way I've looked at it. The other one is he's keeping his options open, I suppose, that way as well. If he doesn't like it over here, he's only got to come over for 6 months.
That's exactly it, yeah. I was expecting some form of a relegation release clause to be in the contract anyway, just in case. And I'd say a lot of players that have come in have that in their contracts anyway. It's just I read 2 things today. One was an article that said Leeds have changed the deal, and then one came from Demarcio himself, and he said the way it was worded was Juventus had changed the deal, and Juventus were the ones that had said loan with a fee plus then an obligation to buy at the end. And apparently the reason for that is to speed up the deal. Is to just get the blockers that they currently have out of the way, because we've all heard the rumors, and when we get to the summer, it's not going to be Radrizzani they're negotiating with. It's going to be the 49ers they're negotiating with at that stage, if they're not already doing that. But it seems to be a big turn away from a £28 million bid into now a loan with an obligation to buy, and it's not really clear who's making that call.
Yeah, I've just actually seen another tweet, and it's from the Football Transfers 247 or whatever, and they've quoted Sky Italia. They've said they've reported recently, actually, just before we came on air, that the bid's now been increased to 30 million plus add-ons. So I don't know who to believe. I don't know. It's a bit berserk.
It's been a strange one, all right. How do you feel about McKennie if he does? Let's assume it goes well and he does come in. How do you feel about that?
I'd be delighted. I think he's exactly what we need. I think he's going to. He's so versatile. I think he's played the majority of this season as a right wing back at Juve. But we've seen him. I mean, he and Adams kept England absolutely silent in the World Cup together. He didn't have the best World Cup, honestly, but he's proven what he's proven what a player he can be. Even before, when he was it Schalke, I think.
Schalke, they got the Champions League final champ, I think.
Yeah. He's got so much experience for a relatively young kid, and I think he would offer a lot to the team. He can play pretty much anywhere in the centre of midfield alongside Adams, or a bit more further forward as an 8, I think, as well. And obviously we've seen as a right back. So I think the question to me, Jer, is how do we line up and how do we squeeze him into that team?
It's a great question. It's a great question. And there was somebody, K-Bone put it in the chat there about 4-3-3, and it looks. I mean, it looks as they bring him in. If you try and 2 and 2 together and get 5 here probably, but if you look at it, Rutter coming in who can play centrally or can play wide. You've Sinisterra come back in. You've Somerville coming in. You've got a lot of these players that can be attacking, kind of narrow or wide players, and then you've got a 3-man midfield of Adams, Rocco, and McKennie maybe as a 3. in midfield. It's very narrow still. It keeps us narrow, but I suppose we're just going to have to get used to this, aren't we? I can't keep putting tweets up every week going, we're not that narrow. Sunday, I got dogs abuse on Sunday. Dogs abuse. For how dare I put a photograph up that shows wide players and not a photograph of 4 players around the ball.
The only time in the game that there's 4 players in a square like that close together, they managed to clip it.
And there was a video I shared yesterday on Twitter from another kid. I can't remember his name, and I apologize to him. But I had a look at his channel. He's got a couple of good breakdown videos, and he explained the context behind the narrow system, and he does a fantastic job. It's on Twitter and it's on YouTube. Go check it out if you haven't done it. But it's basically, he says we're narrow because we do that to win the ball back. We get super compact and we hunt them 4 and 5s. And then when we win the ball back, you get these photographs of 4 players around the ball, but they've just won the ball back. And 2 seconds earlier, they were squeezing to win it. Then they won it. And then you look to get the width from the fullbacks. And, Nanto goes a bit wide at times as well. So the comment that struck me the best, what he said was context to these pictures is vitally important, because it's not just that moment. We saw the one earlier on the season as well, where we were all halfway across the park, and it was like, look how one-sided we are. I was like, that's a normal thing that a lot of clubs will do. They'll half a pitch when they haven't got the ball, but it's, again, that context is missing from those pictures.
It's becoming a little bit of a myth, isn't it? To be fair, this narrowness. Even you watch us now, I can appreciate why people still say that we're relatively narrow, because we do tighten up, and we do work as almost one defensive unit, and almost like a foosball table. They move that's how the players move when they're pressing. Obviously, they can go forward and backwards as well, but they're almost one entire unit that's compact. But in attack, I mean, we can't argue that we're too narrow in attack, because Nanto's hugging the touchline pretty much all the game. Yeah, and it's. I keep saying this, width doesn't necessarily mean the width of the pitch. It means wider than the defense you're facing. So your wingers are wider than the fullbacks that they're up against. For a lot of times, depending on what side of the pitch we're on, the wingers do tend to be wider than the fullback to get in around the back of them. But there's a lot of teams play this system where, and I do it with my club, I play wingers that are the opposite side. So right footer on the left and left footer on the right, so they can come in. So when they win the ball, we don't have a big striker to score a header. So when they win the ball, my ask is you come in and attack the goal and try and get shots away. There's a lot of clubs do that. I mean, Pep had the video of Pep explaining why you play through the centre was shared this week as well. And a lot of times he'll do when they goes out to Mahrez or goes out to the wide players, they just cut inside straight away and they head straight for goal and try and look for those little balls into Haaland or go direct for goal. So it is a myth. I think we're narrow when we have to win the ball back, but I think we're as wide as we need to be with the players we have in the system he's trying to play. And I think looking at Chris Armour's coming in and the money that's been spent in this window, we're just going to have to get used to it as well, because this is how Jesse's going to play, and he's not listening to us. He's not going to listen to people say, give us width, and go, okay. Dave 4622 on Twitter said, play wide. Okay, I'm going to change the whole system for that man there. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. About the 4-3-3, is that a system you think you can see Leeds playing, or you'd like to see us play, or where's your head out with the system? I can absolutely see us playing that. My preference would be 3 centre backs. I think with Warber, Coops, and probably in fact probably Warber, Koch, and Struijk. If I was to be picky, and I love Cooper. I think he's great. But I think the 3 of those probably together would be, and that almost brings room back in for Firpo, where I think he'd excel in a back 5. Or midfield 5 or whatever, however you look at it. But yeah, his strength isn't defending, but we've seen how, I mean, granted it was only Cardiff twice, but I thought he played really well in both those games and was unlucky to not to get some more game time from them. But I think if you are looking at playing 3 centre backs, then we need to, and including Warber in those 3 centre backs, then we probably need to be looking again at a better left midfield stroke wing back. But yeah, that's 4-3-3. I can absolutely see that working, and I see Adams probably sitting the deeper of the 3 and giving Rocco and McKennie a little bit more time on the ball.
Yeah, a bit more license to go box to box, or to one of them to press forward and join the attack, which would be good to see as well. Another pressing midfielder as well.
I think what I wouldn't like to, what we might lose though, but I mean that would assume to me that would probably drop out Aronson, which probably wouldn't be a bad thing at the minute based on his current performances. I think there's definitely a player in there. I think he's a talented lad, and I think he's got a lot to offer the club moving forward, but I think we almost need to have two formations again in games against the better side, your Chelsea's, Arsenal's, Cities, and everything. I think we probably would still be better with the 4-2-3-1 and leaving Aronson in the pocket, because I think that's where he has his better games, when he knows he doesn't have time on the ball. Yeah. But in the slower, duller, control, low block games, he almost thinks he's too much time on the ball, which I think the 4-3-3 would probably benefit us.
Yeah, actually, the last game was a great example of that, because Jackie was guilty of it as well. Jackie was guilty of getting caught in possession of the ball, or he got the ball in space in the middle and he turned to run. He took a touch, took another touch, and then just got swarmed and lost the ball. I think they weren't expecting to have as much space as they had, and then they didn't really know what to do with it, because they're training for this frantic kind of packed system. And then when they do get space, they're like, shit, I do this.
What do I do it?
This wasn't in the playbook. Yeah, I think there's merits to it. I'm the same as you, Luke. I'm 100% on the three at the back. I think it would definitely appeal to the strengths of the players we have, and it would also try and hide some of the weaknesses that they have as well. I think having someone like, I've been vocal enough about Liam Cooper at times, but I think having Liam Cooper stuck in the middle, you've got Vober on one side and Cock on the other side, maybe, or you can bring Stroke in, whatever way you want to do that. You've got more options. Even Llorente on the right in that system, I think, is protected a little bit more, and that's tongue in cheek.
Absolutely.
If I never see Llorente playing for Leeds again, I'll be a cameraman. I don't dislike the guy. He had a great first season when he came in, but he's just not been brilliant. But I think then you could possibly get the best out of Firpo, because he's not asked to defend, and he's a good cross from a ball, Firpo, when he attacks well. Yeah. But he can't defend for his life, and that's the problem. So, and then Christensen has the same issue as well, can bomb forward, put balls in the box, but is struggles with the ball over his head. And I think he'd get away with it.
I think we'll probably see the best of both those. I think he's spot on, and I think we might see the players that we thought we signed at the fees and from, So I think I would be. I mean, I can't see Marsh doing that now and changing things that dramatically. If I'm honest with you, I think he will. I think he will still stick to his guns, and we'll probably see 4-2-3-1 for the majority of the season. Who plays where? I don't know. Maybe rotate the midfield three of Rocco, McKennie if he comes in, and Adams.
Yeah, there's actually first thing before I go anywhere else, super chat from Graham. Graham, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Very much appreciated. You should just have a question with him, maybe. Just ask a question. We're gonna throw the question up. We've got one from one of the guys here is asking about. Oh, you just sat there and screaming a minute ago. Do we think that he would drop Aronson? #lovechild. I think Jesse's in the bracket right now where he doesn't have a lot of choices. I think he needs results, and I think he's going to have to go with form players over favorite players. I like Aronson, same as you. I think I think the narrative or the history of Aronson has been rewritten a little bit since the World Cup. I thought he had a really good time at Leeds before the World Cup. I thought he was one of our better players. And they have people saying he's the worst signing we've made all season. It's like, I thought Christensen had that one nailed down.
I don't think he's been the worst sign. I think he's been the most how shall I put this? But I think it's been the most disappointing. I think because of his transfer fee and how good he was before the World Cup. I think he's been potentially the biggest letdown. Because I think after the World Cup, big rest because he didn't play much. I think we expected a lot more for him, and he works his ass off. He works his socks off. But there's just that one touch too many. He gets caught in position a little bit too often for me. And I think, I absolutely agree in terms of, I don't think he's Marshall's love child at all. I think he's simply probably the best player we've got to play in there right now.
Yeah, it's where you get the best out of him. I liked him against Crystal Palace playing on the right, and then he went back into the centre, but I kind of like Jack Harrison in the centre now. There's a lot to like back to playing in the middle. We're lacking that bit of quality. You can find a gap, and I think Jackie has that in his locker. Aronson coming in on the right is dangerous. But I would agree. I think at the moment, the World Cup seems to have damaged him. The lack of game time that he got at the World Cup, he seems to have come back just rusty and a bit out of form. And his confidence had a bit of a kick, and it's not getting any better at the moment. So I think the smart move is take him out of the firing line for a bit. You've got Somerville coming back. You've got a free week this week essentially with Accrington. And then maybe be with Somerville in for the next week and bring him in a bit, and give him a rest. But I think long term, Aronson's going to be a fantastic player. I mean, people like Jurgen Klopp don't come out and say that player is going to be world class if he's not. Like they've made big comments, big managers about him. So,
and I mean, in the USA team, you've only got to look at Giovanni Reina. Didn't get any game time in front of him, and he's a fantastic young player.
Super dormant last night.
Yeah, and so I mean, he's potentially been a little bit too harsh on himself, and he's probably lacking in a little bit of confidence. But if anybody's if anybody's in the best place to motivate him, I would probably pick Jesse Marsch to motivate him. You know, so I don't have any doubts. I just think we need to maybe potentially limit his game time or choose his games and choose his minutes a bit more wisely and not expect too much maybe.
Yeah, and we've got options. We've got wide options.
Yeah, absolutely.
Considering we don't play wingers, we've got lots of wingers who can play in wide areas. I wanted to ask you about another one that came up today, Luke, and this one just seems to be a mad transfer that popped up. Tete from Lyon. That I woke up this morning and looked at my phone as I do most mornings to start taking screenshots of news to kind of get it all together. And I'm reading through this thing going, how does this come out of? There hasn't been a murmur in a Tete. And then all of a sudden it was, will be in Leeds today for a medical. You're like, and then within about 4 hours, like the Keep had changed their story to Leicester.
Yeah.
What did you make of it? Do you think there's anything in that, or Leeds were even looking at that, or is it just a complete mess?
I think I can't. I mean, if we sign another winger, I would be absolutely astounded. I think even if we were looking at wingers right now, we'd be absolutely mad. But look, I'd take him. I wouldn't say no. But I think there's probably just some crosswires, as a couple of the Leeds reporters have said since that. Yeah, they've just probably, just typed the wrong thing or something, and one person's picked up on a mistake by accident, or it's the agent just saying, look, Leeds are in for everybody at the minute. Maybe we'll get a couple extra million quid from Leicester.
It's an easy one with Leeds, and I said this to somebody on Twitter earlier on about someone said we're getting hourly updates from Fabrizio Romano on the McKennie situation. It was like, because we're an easy clickbait, because we will click on everything, we will comment on everything, we will answer. So from an agent's perspective, or a guy who's a media guy online now, that's just filling up his timeline. Like, he's getting likes and comments, and that's great for his exposure. So it's an easy thing to just link Leeds with a player, because right now they know Leeds are buying and they're looking and spending money. So it kind of goes a bit, hand in hand. Well, I would throw Leeds' name into the mix to see what happens. I don't believe half of them. Igor Julio from Fiorentina was mentioned earlier on the week as a centre back. I got very excited when I saw that. I'm not going to lie, because he's a monster. He's an app. Yeah. Look that guy up and look at the size of his legs. His calves are just like this width. And for the offer, I think it was like something like up to 17 million. I was thinking that's a bargain. Like, he's a decent centre back. He does a good job in Italy, and Italy's a very defensive orientated league. It's slower, but he reads the game well as well. And that kind of seems to just fall by the wayside as well. So I think right now it's an easy thing to just stick Leeds' name in with everybody and see what kind of attention it gets a little bit.
I think the only other guy is the young Portuguese lad, isn't it?
Yes. Oh, what's his name here somewhere?
I forget his name. But he turns
18 today. Diego Montero, is it? Montero?
Yes, that's him. He turns 18 on the 28th. I saw tomorrow, I believe.
And is expected to sign the Leeds in the 30th, apparently.
Yeah, so fingers crossed, because I think he's well thought. I don't know a lot about him, I'll be perfectly honest. But he's highly regarded. But we can't sign him until he's 18 due to the rules and regulations around there. So
yeah, it's an interesting one, because they've said he's expected to go straight into the under-21 side, which on the back of today's result, they could probably do with them. They could probably do with a couple of players. They're being pinched again for the first team. Yeah, but he looks good, and they said a lot of really good things about him. I think this is where I think Victor Orta comes into his own. This is where I think Victor Orta does the best work, and that's getting these players at 17, 18, 19. I mean, even the ones that haven't worked out, we've gotten some money back on them and made some kind of profit on them as well. So I think this is where he really shines. And look at the young players we've got coming through and around the fringes of the first team or in the first team right now. I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting to look at these young players go. We've got a really exciting team. Put one or two experienced heads in there, and you could have a cracking team. If we can survive, we've got a cracking team, I think, in the next 4 or 5 years. Do you think this player's been looked at as a possibility of coming in, though, and playing, or do you think it's just going to go in this season?
Don't know. I don't think we all thought that Nonto would come in as the type of player, or even Somerville would have reached these levels by now. So I think one thing that we can be proud of as a club is that route to the first team, and that we're not afraid to give them an opportunity when the chances arise. Whether that be under the previous management or even, and Jesse seems to have carried that on too. We're inundated with youthful talent at the moment, and obviously Joffrey going out, which is a great move for him, by the way, on loan to Sunderland. But we seem inundated with actual potential world class young kids at the moment, which is a great position to be in.
Yeah, and I was talking to Alex and Michael from the American Leeds podcast earlier on Twitter, and we were saying, having a back and forth about where we go from here with these players and what the next thing is with them. And I think to see the amount of quality that's come in that can go out on loan, and to see even the resale value on them. I mean, you're looking at Joffrey going out on loan, and this time last year we're talking about Joffrey being, breakthrough star next year and was going to be a big deal. I still think he's going to be a huge star.
Absolutely,
I think
agree.
To be a star. You look at what Jesse's done with Sam Greenwood, because I don't think Sam Greenwood looked like he was going to be a Premier League player at a point before Jesse came in. Jesse seems to have turned him into a pretty decent, capable midfielder. And I like Sam Greenwood now, and I wasn't a big fan of him as a striker. But it's fine. And then Somerville's just excellent. And then Cody Drama. I meant to ask you this, so I'm curious about your thoughts on this. Cody Drama.
Mm-hmm.
Very well named. And the second name is perfectly named for him, because it just seems to be drama with him. What are your thoughts on Cody Drama? Just all up. What do you think the hell's going on with this guy?
I think there's a talented player in there, but for some reason, I mean, we're not on the training ground with Cody on a day-to-day basis, but there is a particular reason that he's not being offered enough opportunity. Whether that's attitude, where I know we saw a few things. Did he tweet something last season when he was on loan at Cardiff? He deleted his Leeds United or something from his bio or something, if I remember rightly. And a lot of that put a lot of noses out of place. So look, talented player. When the likes of teams like Dortmund are sniffing round and other scouts, but yet he still ends up at Luton Town on loan. So I'm happy we've kept hold of him, because I think if he has got attitude problems, I'm hoping he'll grow out of them. Because he's clearly a talented young lad, and I think that he's another one of our potential stars of the future for me. I think he's probably played better than Christensen in the games that he's played this season. So yeah, I'm glad he's gone out on loan rather than being snapped up. But I think his contract's up very soon as well, isn't it?
He's got a year. He's got another year in his contract. So
is it a year? 18 months. Yeah.
End of next season. The interesting one with this is they expect him back, and Marsha said he's part of his plans for next season. Jesse's very confident and that he'll still be here next season, which is good. But he said he wants him back and he expects him to be a big part of their plans going forward.
Jesse's managing Luton next year, that's why.
Possibly why. The thing with it was I thought that with Jesse saying that, the first thing that popped in my head was Leeds haven't offered Luke Ayling a new contract, and Luke Ayling stays up to the end of this season. Is there a possibility?
He's our best right back.
Yeah, right now he is. Yeah. I still think Rasmus will come good. I saw a lot of people say the same things about him when he went to Austria. He struggled for the first 4 or 5 months of it, and then he seemed to adapt, and he was outstanding then. And I think if you do that once, you can probably do that twice. So I think he'll be okay. Maybe next year, give him a year under his belt to get used to it. But in the meantime, we need somebody who can do the job right now. And Bill is doing a great job again, back in doing it. But I'm concerned that he's out of contract at the end of the season. And I think that maybe the selling point to Drama to stay on is Luke will leave at the end of the season, and you'll have his spot. So you'll be on the bench, you'll be getting more minutes off the bench, and you'll be getting more regular game time with the Premier League. Which concerns me a little bit, because I don't really think Luke's ready to be gotten rid of just yet. No,
I'd completely agree. I think even for his experience and leadership, and just for squad camaraderie, a player like Luke Ayling brings a lot more than performances to Leeds United. I'm of the belief that you need some senior figures around whether they're getting game time or not. Regardless, I still feel a changing room with all the heads in there is a much more stable changing room, and offers a lot more to these youngsters, especially because we've got such a young squad as well. Some of these players, Luke Ayling, Dallas, Cooper, etc., for sure, will only help their development, and the majority of them will be better players than the four I mentioned by a long shot. But yeah, I find that the wealth of experience and support that they can offer to such a young squad would be a shame to lose for me. Based on that, I mean, I don't want to guess what Luke Ayling's on. It might be an absolute monster amount of money that he's asking for to renew. You don't know, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm of Leeds have been guilty of this over the last couple of years. Not last couple of years. Go back to the last 10 years. When Leeds look to strengthen a position, they tend to sell the player that's in that position and then buy the replacement, but still leave themselves maybe with only one real option in that position. And I look at other Premier League teams more what's the word I'm looking for here? More established Premier League clubs. And they don't do that. They strengthen an area by buying a better version of what they've got, but they keep hold of what they have, and that sits on the bench. And it plays cup games, or you rotate it that way. I'd like to see Leeds go down that route as well. Like, just we did it with Alioski. We let Alioski go, and we brought in Firpo. Arguably worse off afterwards for doing that. There was no reason why you shouldn't keep Alioski anyway and have two left-sided players, because you don't have any left-backs, and you don't have any left-backs in the 21 side either. So it would make sense to have the second one option there. And we kind of hamstrung ourselves a little bit with that one. And if you look at it again this year, if you let Bill go, right, you've got Dram and you've got Christensen, but one of them doesn't work out, you've still only got the one. I would be inclined to go renew his contract, change the deal probably a little bit. He's getting older, he knows himself, but I would say he'd rather be part of the Premier League side than maybe drop down the divisions a little bit and keep him there as the player, as the backup, and also for that influence that you spoke about in the dressing room. And I'm exactly the same boat with Liam Cooper as well. I think we need to replace Liam Cooper long term because he's getting older and he's getting slower. And we need better players. But at the same time, he clearly has a massive influence in the dressing room. So you don't want to just bring in a centre half, sell Cooper. You want to keep Cooper in the club because he has an impact on the squad and the younger players, and just add more quality to that. That's what I would like to do ideally.
Yeah, spot on. I completely agree with that, Joe. There's a lot to be said. That I didn't play to a great standard of football or rugby, but I played with a lot of different characters throughout. And I always, as a young kid, I always felt more comfortable when some of the older lads were playing, even if they were only on the bench. If they were in the dressing room, just some of the words, the advice they'd give you, just a little nudges, and even advice from the sidelines sometimes. I think there's a lot to be said. I think experience is probably worth its weight in gold at that level.
Yeah, you want those voices in the dressing room that can tell you about a situation that's happened that you might not have experienced before as a young player.
Exactly.
Especially when it comes to big matches and there's big pressure, you want to have those arm around your shoulder to say, don't worry about it. We've been here before. We know what we're doing. We'll be all right, and it makes a huge difference. Because it's not always the coach's job, and the coach and the manager doesn't always have the time to do the one-on-one stuff. They tend to be focused on especially on match days. That's where you lean heavily. And that's why Jesse has his senior player council, whatever he calls it. But he's 6 or 7 players that are on that senior player group that he uses then to speak to players and help get the message out as well. So it's
which Rodrigo's thriving in.
And I said we did an interview with Adam Pope at the start of the season, and I said to Adam, I'm a closet Rodrigo fan and have been for a couple of years. I got a jersey from last year and the year before with his name and number on the back of it. And I was like, I just don't wear them. I just don't put them on because I get
just not turn around.
just jump around. But I'm delighted that he's come good this year, and you can see that. I mean, there has been, for all the abuse that Jesse gets, and some of it is justified and some of it's not, but some of it is justified. For everything that he has clearly helped the likes of Somerville, Greenwood, Rodrigo, to get better and to step up a little bit as well. And I think you can see that with the individual stuff with the players. I think he has left a mark on some of these. And it's happy clapper stuff, and I get called a happy clapper. I know you get called a happy clapper. And Jesse is one as well. But you have to look at the positives and stuff, otherwise it's miserable. And I think there is some good stuff there if you can get it right over the next couple of weeks, but he doesn't need results. But fingers crossed, better players coming in, make us a better team, and then he can get the...
Yeah, spot on. I just, as you quite rightly say, look, the performances are there, the results will come. It's just about having a bit more, we've just got to have a little, not just luck, I think we've just got to have that little bit extra in every game, and we would probably have picked up nine points from the last 3, do you know what I mean, rather than 1.
Yeah, looking back on the 3 games, it's disappointing. But if you go Aston Villa as well. Aston Villa game, we should have got 3 points from that. Then you've got obviously the Cardiff Cup game we should have won that straight first time round easily. Nothing got through to the next round, and then the last game against Brentford as well, which I thought we played really well, and I thought we were desperately looking out to win that game. But it happens. Luke, I won't keep you too much longer. What's next? What's needed? What do we need to do in this window for us to be safe?
I think we're already safe. I think we've had a successful window. Given all the naysayers were probably saying we wouldn't sign anybody and the owners were crap and everything else prior to the window, they seem to have quietened down a little bit. I still think we do need a centre midfielder for me to be happy, though, and be more confident. I think we've got enough in that squad. You look at the attacking options now. The defence has been relatively solid the last couple of games. And, I mean, the 2 goals at Cardiff, to take those away, we probably should have had 2 clean sheets in the last 2. Hope for another one tomorrow. I'm travelling up there early on, setting off at 6 in the morning. Yeah, 6 o'clock in the morning I'll be leaving here. But yeah, I don't think anybody even if we finish with just Warburg and Rutter, anybody can knock the transfer window we've had. Given we've let Klitsch go and chase his dreams and try and get back in the Poland squad and whatever else, best of luck to him. But I still think we're missing that a little bit of the jigsaw. Ideally, left back probably as well, because Warburg looks a better centre back if we were being really greedy. But other than that, look, we've got a relatively strong paper now, relatively strong squad on paper now. When you look at the bench and the options we can bring on in Sinistera and people like that, and Bamford coming on off the bench, it's a great position to be in, especially when we were relying on, no disrespect, but Archie Gray and kids essentially last season. So definitely much stronger squad than we've had for a long time, and a lot to be optimistic about for me, Joe.
I said this to you before on Joe's show, and I'll say it again. I count backwards from 40 points. What do we need? You just need 40 points to survive. We're not a mid-table side yet. 40 points will get you roughly 15th, 14th in the table if you can get that now. Leeds are on 18 points and 1 game shy of halfway, which equates to if they can do if they get the exact same results as the first half of the season, you're safe. You would hope they'll do better in some of those games, and you get that slight improvement, we should be safe. So I don't think we'll go down. I think we'll be okay. I'm happy with this window. I don't think anybody can moan when you break your transfer record in January. That's
absolutely.
Can't say we penny pinched there. And I'm really excited to see what the 49ers do when they come in the summer as well, because from what I've heard, there's a plan of a big summer as well. So fingers crossed, it just keeps getting better and better, and it turns around. Looking forward to seeing Jorginho making his debut on tomorrow.
Yeah, I almost it's. I don't know is the honest answer. I would prefer for him not to make his debut against a club that's got a pitch that looks like the bottom of a League One side. But look, yeah, we've got to get excited. We've got half of the stadium there tomorrow. It's 5,500. We've been given half the tickets. Leeds will make plenty of noise. We'll be excited to see. I would imagine a relatively good squad as well. I reckon there's going to be a lot of fringe players included tomorrow, but it should still be well more than and above than enough to do the business.
It's a big difference from Gary Monk's fringe players, which were all 15 years of age and got thunked. It's a big difference having. I mean, you're looking at possibly starting Jorginho and Pat Bamford. You're looking to bring in maybe Sinistera in or Somerville in. You've got, they're better. They're just better players. Our second string is not that bad either. So. Great, folks. Listen, thanks for watching. No video tomorrow or Sunday. I'll be back on Monday with a news video and a small review of the weekend game. Luke, what are you up to on your socials, and where can people find you?
There'll be a post-match review some point after the game tomorrow with a couple of the lads. So keep an eye out for that at Auto No Better. And then we have our weekly session usually on a Tuesday night, around about 8:30. So go give us a follow if you fancy. We're pretty light-hearted like yourself. But the other guys are far more negative than me. So if you're a bit of a happy clapper like myself, you might not like it so much.
There's a good split there. Luke's channel details are in the description of the video as well. So if you want to go click on that, go and give him a sub and have a watch as well. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Highly recommend it. I was going to plug Rocco's books, but he didn't turn up. But if you want to check Rocco's stuff out, his socials are in the chat as well. And you'll see the lads on Just Joe's final word show as well during the week as well, I'm sure. Folks, thanks very much for watching. And I will see you all back here on Monday. And Luke, thanks very much for joining me. Appreciate it.
Cheers, Jeff. Pleasure.